الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum everybody and welcome to this session on COVID and women. I would like to start, my name is Shama Deuji and I will be conducting you through this session, inshallah. And I would like to introduce our speakers for today. So I will start with Morzia Bai Hassan. She's from Toronto, Canada, also very well known as Morzia Appa. She's an author, public speaker, marriage and family therapist. She started her career as a corporate lawyer and then found her passion, which was to work with families. And she's now a social worker. She has a clinic and she's also a relationship consultant. Thank you, Morzia Bai, for joining us today. Next, I have Neelam Bai Jiwa. She's from Mombasa. She's working in our Jaffrey School as the school business manager, and believe me, she knows her business. I've known her for the past 8 years and more as a AFED capacity building facilitator, and I know her to be very dedicated, very committed to her family and her job. So welcome, Neelam Bai.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Zainab Jagani from Nairobi. She's our mental health first aider, very dedicated to work with youth. She's also our development facilitator in CBG, and I can tell you that she's the fresh air in our trainings. Whenever she comes with a lovely smile, she is ready to pick us up. So thank you, Zainab, for joining us today.
Thank you.
For our all viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Just a few housekeeping. This video will be recorded. This session will be recorded and it can be viewed later on YouTube for reference. Our session will be for about an hour with the question and answers at the end, because we would love to hear from you too. So now I will ask our speakers to introduce themselves briefly and tell us what made them accept this invitation today. Can I start with you, Morzia Bai?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. It is wonderful to be here, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It's always exciting to speak to other communities, and normally it is, in person. And since our new world order, obviously we have to adjust. And on that line, the more people that put on the video, it makes it so much more interactive and engaging. So just a request, if you would. It's nice to see some faces behind those names. And what made me accept, it's the idea is that all of us are doing what we can to help each other. And we all have different gifts, and we need to use those in the service of humanity today more than ever before, right? And that's why I'm here, to offer a perspective perhaps, and to offer some skills and tools that we can use to move forward in these times.
Thank you. Thank you, Morzia Bai. Neelam Bai.
Thank you very much. I agreed today to do this because I'm trying to balance between work and home, and it's quite hard. With COVID, life has changed drastically. So I would love to share my experience and hope to get something, all of you to get something out of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Neelam. Zainab?
So thank you very much for this opportunity, Shamanti. As you introduced me earlier, I'm also a wife and a mother to a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I'm a passionate homemaker. So I agreed to do this because I wanted to share my experience, and in my humble story, if anybody could be inspired, or if I could learn more from others, I'm very welcome to do that. And I love sharing and learning and just exchanging ideas. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Zainab. For those who have just joining, welcome to our session on COVID and women. Looking forward to have a successful session. So Zainab, let's start with you.
Yes.
As you said, you are a homemaker, you have small children at home. I know that you, as a career, you are also a makeup artist, and that has been on standstill since the pandemic. You have your spouse also working from home.
Yes.
So how has this pandemic affected you, and how has it, what was your learning, and how has it affected you? How was, as you as a person, what were your challenges? Can you please share with us?
Yes, absolutely. So I feel as soon as the pandemic hit, there's a little bit of duality to it. And I feel as much as there were a couple of losses in my life, there were also a lot of gains. So in terms of the losses that I experienced in my life were my freedom and my focus, high quality focus task time was completely gone. I didn't have that flexibility to be able to do whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to, especially having the kids at home a lot more now. So that was something new to work with. And it was definitely a big loss and took quite some time for me to come to terms with. I think also, as you mentioned, in terms of my career, being a part-time makeup artist, because of the restrictions that we now have, nobody's having parties, nobody's having weddings. So at the moment, career-wise, I am just chilling and giving my all in the house. So that has been one of the effects of the pandemic to me directly, one of the losses. In terms of the gains, I feel as a family unit, this has been a very enriching experience whereby we as parents and as a mother, I have been able to figure out a way to create a healthy mental imprint onto my children to create a very healthy association with the pandemic and building their character. I feel that this is an opportunity for me to build resilience within them, but the only way I can do that is to build resilience within myself. So before I could do anything for them, I first had to learn to take care of myself and to come to terms with whatever was happening around me. I also feel that it has been an opportunity to learn a lot of things and to teach the children a lot of things with learning how to be assertive with the children and with the rest of the family members on maybe certain times of when I need to get certain things done for myself, obviously in a supportive way, but that has been also one of the skills that I'm now learning to exercise. In addition to that, we are also teaching children other life skills such as conscious financial management. As young as 8 and 10, we can teach them to make conscious decisions about finances and teach them about how to be grateful for the privileges that we do have and the blessings that we do have, and to also reinforce skills such as giving and sharing whatever we have. So life has changed in that way. The kids are now at home. Schooling is happening from home. So I'm much more involved in their schooling. And this is also a great opportunity for me to learn about what their strengths are and also identify any points where they need further support in their development. I mean, recently I figured out by them being at home, I actually figured out a little gap in their spiritual development. And I was so grateful for Ramadan being right around the corner that we used that month to be able to sort of nourish them creatively. And the fact that they were at home helped even more. So it was a blessing in disguise. And had they been at school, we wouldn't have been able to identify that. So these are all the effects of the pandemic on us. Yes.
Thank you so much, Zainab. So how did you deal with homeschooling? Being suddenly becoming a teacher, for example, how did you do that?
So I think most importantly, I must say that I had the support of the school to first of all make sure that this pressure that was on me to make sure their work was done, their projects were done, was secondary, but primary. The primary thing that came before everything else was to ensure that we as a family unit, we were okay, we were feeling okay. So we tried to use the 3 A's that I like to share with the family. First of all, just by being aware of how we're feeling. And then after that, accepting accepting the situation, accepting that we're not going to be going back to school, the kids are going to be home, and not fighting that situation because we are in it. And this is the new norm. And that was very, very empowering. And after that, then just allowing whatever feelings that came with it. So the feelings of overwhelm, frustration, intimidation, that's okay. That's normal to feel at a time like this. And for a parent to have that shift from being a parent to now becoming a teacher, these feelings are absolutely normal. But I think another thing that was very empowering was knowing that with time, this whole system of remote learning is new not only to the parent, but also to the teachers in school and also to the students. So giving all of us a little bit of time and knowing that whatever feelings we're feeling with that will also pass, and they're not permanent.
Thank you so much, Zainab. Nilam, coming to that, where you are talking about teacher and students, you are a full-time, working full-time. You used to work full-time 9 to 5 in school, and now you are working from home. And I believe from what you talked that it's now not only 9 to 5, but basically up to night. So how has that affected you as a person? How did you manage to balance that? Like, what helped? Like, how did you manage that?
So Shamabai, when this thing happened and I was told to work from home, I was really excited because I thought whenever I want to, I'll work. Whenever I don't want to, I'll do whatever I want to. I was really excited. I was not even dressing up. I could wear in my nightie and do my work. But within 2 weeks, it got to me because you don't dress up. There's no system. There's no discipline. You come in, you check, you go to the kitchen, come back. And unfortunately, our house helps were not allowed to come in the house. So so it took an overwhelming effect on me. I started getting very stressed because I have two adults. I have a husband and two children of 25 and 27. So now everybody has an opinion. Everybody is working from home. Internet is going down. Everybody's shouting on Zoom for each other. So it was overwhelming. So we had to sit down as a family and decide, okay, let's not come into each other's way. Let's do it slowly. Because as Zainab said, even the teachers in the school are finding it difficult. So they also need support from me because virtual learning from every part of Mombasa is not possible. Teachers need that internet. So it really took a toll, but we sat down. We decided that we are not going to come into each other's way. No opinions. Let the person have the space and do their work. The good part was that the duas, the connection, the spirituality, because you know you don't have to dress up. Nobody's watching you. You and your God. You connect with your God for your duas, and the support system is the family. You know, my husband helped me set up my whole office, the printer, the computer, the Wi-Fi. You know, small things which you don't have, a stapler. All these things you need if you are having an office in the house. So it was overwhelming, but now we are coming down. But now again, I'm starting to feel anxiety because it's too much. I need to meet people. I cannot look after 150 people virtually. I would like to meet people and talk to them because it's really hard virtually. It's a challenge.
Okay, I can understand that. Knowing you, I know how the need to connect with people is so important to you. So now at this stage that you are in just now and feeling so frustrated and what measures are you taking to take care of your mental health, if I may ask?
So I have decided religiously to take 1 hour off to me time. I do something which I like. It could be a Netflix. Netflix is very very important today. Watch something nice, just be happy, a comedy program or a cooking show or something, and just do a 1 hour just me time. Nobody else, just me. So it just calms you down.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Moseba, if I may ask you, lockdown has a different meaning in the West. Tanzania doesn't have a lockdown at all. Kenya is containment, but it's not like really a lockdown. How is that? You are working with individuals, you are working with couples, you are working with families, and you have also your clinic. How has the pandemic affected you as a personally, professionally? If you please can share.
So let me start with personally. I'm at a different stage in life, I guess. I have 3 grown children, but nobody was living at home. They were all away for work or studying or whatever. Since the lockdown happened, because 2 of my kids are in the States, but my daughter who was in New York, she also works as a social worker, and she was working virtually, and with a lot of persuasion, we convinced her to work from home in Toronto rather than New York, because as you know, New York was pretty badly hit. So that way it has been different in the sense, once children leave home, it's a different relationship. It is dealing with adults at that point, right? And, although my kids visit very often, but having her home for an extended period of time, we've all had to learn to deal with each other, and one of the things about the pandemic is that generally when any one of us is stressed, who do we turn to? We either turn to friends or family, right? Mm. And what the pandemic has really changed, especially for women, is that everyone is stressed, So if I'm stressed, who do I turn to? Because if I call somebody else, they have their own problems. And, a lot of us are dealing with grief, with overwhelm, with having a lot of people at home all the time. So for families, it is the idea of too much togetherness, Many families survive on a daily basis, even if the relationships are not that healthy, by maintaining some sort of distance, having some space. Right? And now everyone's in the same space with no kind of let out. I've been working with many people, families who will actually have to go in their car to do a session because there's no privacy at home. So things, have really changed. And I think they've changed particularly for women more than for anyone else. We have more work. Physically at home, just because there are more people, nobody's eating out, nobody's going to anyone's house, so we are in charge of feeding and maintaining the household all the time, right? We also have more emotional work because our families are stressed, right? Yeah. And this is what I'm finding with my daughter and myself, both of us doing such challenging work. We have very down days because just of the nature of the work, we're dealing with grief and stress and distress all day long. And we've found a way to be there for each other in a way that, we check in with each other to see where, if I'm feeling really down, then she will support me, or if she's feeling really down, I will support her. But I can't say it's been easy, right? Another big source of stress for our family is that we are all over the world. So, my parents who, I run to at the minute they need anything, we can't do that, right? And they have 4 kids, but right now they're alone. They're alone in a place far away, and we just pray that, alhamdulillah, they're healthy, they're active, all of that. But it's a big source of stress and anxiety. And, on top of all of that, all of us are experiencing the fact that we have less support than we ever have. Just because of the nature of the pandemic, everyone is stressed. And, we need to find ways to be there for each other, to check in how the other person is doing, and take turns giving and receiving support. And for women, sometimes to ask other than just our close circle of friends, that can be quite a challenge, right?
And how has it been professionally for you now that you can meet people face to face? How has it been for you?
So, to be very honest, that has not been the biggest impact. Why? Because I was already doing online sessions, right? I mean, before Zoom was a thing, I was doing Zoom sessions, right? So, because I have clients, you know, in other parts of the world, it's just that obviously that was balanced with seeing people in my office. But now, you know, everything is online. And for those of us, and both of you mentioned, right, that it is hard to not see people virtually. And that's really a thing. You know, it is very exhausting to sit in front of a video screen and speak at it rather than, you know, because when you're in the same room, you get support from the energy, you know, you are, there's a different level of connection, right? And with the video, it's definitely better than nothing, you know, far better, right? And even much better than the telephone, because obviously you can still see facial expressions and all of that. And it can be very tiring. So, you know, we need to know how to balance, you know, like if I have 3 sessions in a row, I'm done. Like by the end of it, it's, you know, it's tiring. And professionally, obviously, there's a lot more need. So the kinds of things that are coming forward are much more intense. And there's a lot of these, you know, there's a lot of online sessions, teaching sessions, right? Late into the night. So the first 2 weeks of the pandemic, I was working many nights till midnight, you know, given all the other, you know, different parts of the world. So professionally, it's just become a bit more intense, I would say.
Yes. Nilambai, coming to what Mozabai said just now, and this is what was one of your, when we talked, that you do work till late night, okay?
Yes.
And we do have these ups and downs in life. Every day is not the same. Every frustration, stress that Mozabai mentioned. And then also the fact like now it's getting too much on you, having the same people around. Okay, so how do you, what are you using any resources, any tools to, about that, apart from that 1 hour that you have per week for yourself and you do, that calms you down, but on a day-to-day basis, every day, is there
Yeah.
anything that is helping you?
I'm somebody who plans very far. I have a plan. I have a plan A, plan B, and plan Z. That's how I am. But in the past 2 weeks, I've learned to take the day as it comes.
Okay.
You wake up in the morning, you do your work, and you go to sleep, and you thank God that everybody is safe and everybody's okay. Because the numbers even in Mombasa are rising, so it's scary. So I'm planning day at a time. I'm not jumping. I'm not planning ahead. I have my son just came back from UK after he's finished his masters, and I was so excited to have him around. And now I'm like, it's okay, he can go. But but because my ICT skills are not great, so he's like, you need to do this and you need to do that and do this and do that, and so but it's good help, but I'm taking it just by the day. Today is gone, shukar. Tomorrow will be another day. Everybody's well. My parents live near me; they're my neighbors, so I get to see them every day. So I go there in the evening to just be yourself, laugh. My dad is very lively, and that's it. So take a day as it comes. Thank God we are all alive and everybody is healthy.
Yes, I know. Thank you for that. Zainab, how about you? Because like the same question, like I said, like, ups and downs are there. Your spouse is at home, working from home also. And I know that your family is in Nairobi, but containment. So it's very difficult to go and see them. So what do you do? Who do you reach out to when you have, like, you need to really voice out or take out your frustrations? What do you do?
So I have really enjoyed journaling, and I feel that at this time more than ever that has really come in handy. At times when I can't physically go and see somebody, then just taking a few moments out in the garden with a journal and sitting and pouring my heart out really, really, really helps. But also just being more conscious of each day, each moment has really, really, really helped me personally. And being the watcher of my thoughts, but in a very neutral way, not in a judgmental way. Neutral, and also to an extent with compassion and empathy, as just to see, watch each step and each thought as per it's going, as per the way it is unfolding, and just doing it in a very compassionate way, identifying a loop of loss within myself, because there is a loss of the old life. We're now in a new life, and sometimes for others it's difficult to get out of, like, you have the old life and then you have the new life, and sometimes we get stuck in a waiting room, just like we had a waiting room for the Zoom call. And before we can bridge into the new life, sometimes we just tend to get stuck in our chatter and our thoughts, and we don't move into the new one. So being aware and being conscious of that, and debunking any myths of grief, that grief has to last forever. Yes, I did grieve because I had lost a big part of my life, a big part of my lifestyle. But letting that go, cherishing the memories of going on a beach and the freedom to go, walk in the park or in the forest over here and have our picnics and go to a restaurant or a coffee shop, that's not there anymore. And just cherishing those memories, hoping for a new time, and also adjusting with what we have right now, I think has really, really helped me. And also I'm really grateful for the power of technology and being able to reach out to not only people here, but also globally, and getting support from people outside has been very, very helpful too. So yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Mosebe, coming back to you, like Zainab said, that life has changed. The corona virus is here to stay, unfortunately. We cannot go back to where we were before. We are learning new ways to adapt. What would you advise the viewers and women all over the world, women all over the world, staying together, being together with people does raise conflict, does raise loss, like Zainab said, frustration, stress, like you said. What would you advise them? How can they help themselves? How can they take care of themselves? Because this is what this session is about, is how do we take care of ourselves in this new time and going onwards?
So, big question. And here's the thing, generally when we have stressors in our lives or any challenge which is outside ourselves, right? We have two options. One is that we can manage the external circumstances. And two is that we can manage our internal capacity to deal with those circumstances, right? And in this day and age, what has become really clear is that all our illusions of control and order have been shattered, right? Yes. All of us are experiencing, oh my God, what happened? The world changed overnight, and many of us were not prepared, right? So clearly we have less control and influence on our outside circumstances. So what that means is that we need to turn inside, and we need to see what we can do to build our internal resilience to adapt to this new world. Right? And two things, just two very briefly, and there's many resources, by the way, available, which I can point people to learn more about these things. But the two things I'd like to talk about is self-care and self-compassion. Okay, what does that mean and why is it important? First of all, why is it important? Because as women, we set the emotional tone for our homes. We have a lot of influence. I always like to tell people, when mama's not happy, nobody's happy, right? And this is a real thing. So what that means is that we need to take our own well-being and our own happiness really seriously. When we are at peace with ourselves, we literally, you know, allow our families the space to grow and to thrive. But when we are not okay, then it is a domino effect on everyone else, right? And I'm not saying this to put one more burden on women, right? Because we have enough burdens, you know, spiritual, emotional, all of that. I'm saying that to recognize how important it is to take care of ourselves, right? So, and by the way, you know, as women, we are so focused on our children, right? We want to do the best for our kids. And our children benefit more from our own well-being than almost anything else. And this is why, like, if nothing else can motivate us, you know, this is a really huge motivating factor. Then when we take care of our own selves, our children are much, much happier. And there's a lot of, you know, I'm just saying these things right now, but there's actually everything I'm talking about is very much evidence-based, in the sense it has a lot of research to support it, okay? So what is self-care? Self-care is anything that we do on a regular basis to take care of ourselves, to function optimally. Now, the problem with our idea about self-care is that we look at Instagram and we look at Facebook and we think self-care means that we go on the beach and we go on yoga retreats and we go on these beautiful holidays. And that's not self-care. Right? It's wonderful and it's a great break and all of that. But self-care is much more minor than that. You know, not all of us have the resources, the availability now. I mean, nobody can go anywhere. But that's, you know, so to make that distinction, that self-care is much more smaller than these big, grand things, okay?
Okay.
Secondly, to deal with ourselves with self-compassion, and I think Zainab beautifully, you know, put it, that the situation is as it is, right? And if I resist it, it's going to just make it harder for myself. If I accept that situation, then I can use my energy to actually do something about it. And that's the same thing about dealing with ourselves. So when we are going through a hard time, you know, we could tell ourselves, I should be happier, I should be able to manage, I shouldn't be ungrateful, you know, we put all of these shoulds on ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And if you know, a very graphic way to put it is that if you're hurting, you know, it's like when somebody else is hurting, we say, you know what, it's okay. Like, you're having a hard time today, tomorrow will be a better day, inshallah. You know, how can I support you? When we hurt, it's almost like we lock ourselves in a room and we beat ourselves up. So, and then we expect to be healed and we expect to be there for everyone else. So compassion, you know, when we practice self-compassion, we are able to be compassionate to others as well, right? Again, a lot of research. So if you have any questions, but then I'd just like to go through, you know, specific things that we can do given these two paradigms.
Yes.
Okay, and for those people who are interested, I've already, the handout or the slides for this, you know, will be on the website. If it isn't already, it should be there shortly. So, you know, you'll have some thing to take away.
Okay, so I can ask something. Before you list, when you are saying that we lock ourselves and we don't want to heal ourselves, you know, we are supposedly supposed to be the peacemaker of the house, right? So whatever happens, we are supposed to make peace with everything and everybody. And that is, I think, one of why we do that. I don't know if you can just talk about that.
Yeah, and my question, you know, for people who think like that would be, says who? You know, who gave us this designation that we have to be the peacemakers? Like, that's a big burden to take on upon ourselves, right? And like I said, you know, our lives are challenging enough. Why do we add more? You know, so I can control myself. And, you know, so many women are in this situation, right? They will come and they will say, my husband and my son don't get along. My daughter and her sister don't get along. And I'm like, okay, and how is this your problem? You know? So, I mean, it sounds really blunt, and definitely we can do things to make the home environment such that it's easy to get along, right? But, you know, one of the main things about happiness and well-being for ourselves is to recognize what is in our circle of control and what isn't. Literally, enlightenment and awakening begins with that. That's the first step, to see, you know what, this is my problem and this is not my problem, right? I can definitely, you know, manage myself, or I can, you know, that's definitely within my control. But if two people are not getting along, when I take that up on myself, it's a huge burden. And honestly, like it sounds, it's really sad that we don't have time to go into this. But if we give that up, you know, if we give up that burden, actually it's very freeing for ourselves. And then we can do the right thing. We can do what is in our circle of control without worrying about the outcome, right? So the second most important, and this wasn't even part of what I was going to talk about, but the two main things about our own well-being, right? Figure out what's in your circle of control, focus on that, right?
Okay.
And number two, focus on the process, not the outcome. What do I mean by that? So the process is always in my control. You know, I can be kind myself. I can speak well. I can speak up. I can be respectful. I can do all of that. That's process. Are people in my home going to get along? I can't guarantee that, right? Because that's an outcome. There's more things at play here than just me.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, the process of self-care starts with getting in touch with where you are and what you need. What do I mean? So, you know, in the morning and at several times of the day, it's a really simple practice. You know, by the way, nothing I'm going to be talking about is a to-do list. It's not, I do not believe in adding more to women's to-do list than we already have. Okay, it's the way we think more than what we have to do. So checking in with ourselves, how am I doing? What nourishes me? What drains my energy, right? There's a very easy way to do a personal check-in, and it's called HALT, H-A-L-T. Okay, HALT means pause, right? So it's, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired?
Okay.
And it's just a way to start the process. Okay. So again, several times a day, just close your eyes, just check in, you know, what's going on? What do I need right now? Like if there was a little child who was like this, how would I be offering them support, right?
Okay.
And then once I get in touch, so say I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling really lonely or anxious, or whatever it is, right? As again, Zainab put it beautifully, that accept those feelings. You know, whatever feelings are, if we make a really clear distinction between feelings and action, then we're not threatened with feelings, right? Feelings are what they are, thoughts are what they are, they come and go. We don't need to act on everything, okay? So I deal with myself with self-kindness rather than judgment. What does that mean? So say, for example, you know, one of the things that a lot of us are struggling with is this idea that there are so many people who have it harder than me in the world. So I, quote unquote, should be grateful, right? Now, actually, should be grateful is one of the easiest ways to make ourselves ungrateful. Because what am I doing is I'm denying what I'm really feeling. Okay, so even say I'm having a really hard time. Why? Simply because the housekeeper who used to come and clean for me once a week is not being able to come because of the lockdown. In the greater scheme of things, this is minuscule, right? It really doesn't matter in the world, okay? However, at that point, it's a great big inconvenience to me. And if I simply acknowledge that, it's not going to take away from the fact that people are really suffering. You know what I mean? So we can have space for both. Okay. The second thing is that we need to understand that whatever I'm going through, other people in the world have gone through this. I'm not alone. Right? Isolation is one of the most distressing things for human beings.
Brilliant.
When we get in touch with our common humanity, that's a huge part of self-compassion. Okay. Number two. And number three is to be mindful of it, to, again, like Zainab said, to be a watcher of our thoughts and our feelings, just to label them, acknowledge them, rather than over-identify. Over-identify means if I'm angry at someone, they must be like this. You know, if I'm angry at my husband, means he is a bully, for example, okay? Mindfulness means, you know what, today I'm feeling really negative towards my husband. Can you see the big difference, right?
Yes.
If I learn to make these distinctions, then I don't need to believe everything I think, and I don't need to act on everything I feel. And that's a really huge step forward in helping myself, okay? And maybe I can just do one more before you know, I hand it over. Start the morning right. You know, morning and evening are the two bookends of our day, right? So if we just take care of the first few moments and the last few moments, our whole day tends to go better, okay? So how do we start the morning? Set an intention before you even get out of bed. Again, doesn't take time. It's just where you are placing your attention, right? So an intention for the day would be, it's not a goal, huh? It's an intention. So my intention would be to show up with kindness, okay? Now, does this mean that I am kind the whole day? No, but it means that when I'm not, I have something to come back to, right? So for example, if I lose it for a few seconds, I remember my intention, I come back and I apologize and I keep moving forward, right? Grounding yourself. So of course, Salah is a beautiful practice to ground ourselves, but even before, like just before we get out of bed, I don't know how many people have heard of power poses, but again, a lot of research on if you just stand, you know, stand firm on the ground and you close your eyes, you just get in touch with the feeling of strength, okay? And you notice, you know, you literally, you stand tall, the way I like to do it is imagine that my feet are roots, they have roots in the ground. And then just like a tree will sway, but it won't be unrooted with the wind. So similarly, if I just do this practice for a few seconds, I get grounded in myself, I recognize my own strength, I recognize my power, and then I can go on with my day, right? At the end of the day, just finish with what went well today. So it's not positive thinking, okay? You know, that's a whole different thing. It's simply to acknowledge that yes, there is all of this anxiety. Yes, there is all of this pain. Yes, there is all of this distress. And there's still the blue sky. You know, I can still hear birds. There is still, you know, my daughter smiled today, or the food was delicious, or whatever, you know. So it's not denying what is there, but it is not having a tunnel vision either. It is expanding our awareness so that we can hold space for both.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So of course there's a lot more, but I think that's enough to get us started.
Thank you so much, Mazabai. It reminded me of a saying of Dandapani that where awareness goes, your energy goes. About waking up, kindness when you wake up in the morning, how you want your day to be, and definitely grounding and appreciating the little, even your next cup of tea that you had during the day. Appreciating the small things goes a long way back. So thank you so much for that. I'm sure I'm going to watch again the YouTube and write down all the points that you have mentioned and start practicing, because this is what I was looking for, that some practical steps that you can take in your busy day, in your life, in your everyday, that could help you get that energy back, get that compassion. And especially what I loved about is the self-compassion. Like I don't know about, but I know as a woman, I want everything to be perfect and blame myself for little things, yeah. So I've learned to accept that things can go wrong and don't blame myself for that. So be kind to myself and love myself. So that has also really helped. So thank you so much for that. I think we have another 10 minutes. If I can request all three of you to leave your last one message to the viewers before we open up to the questions. So, Nilam, can you start? One brief message for our viewers.
Yeah, it's just a quick one. I've said this again, and it's really working with me. And I think Mazia Appa has really put it down very well. I said I take a day at a time, and the me time, I think I'll pick up something from Mazia Appa, and the me time will be to love myself as well, and do something which relaxes me, my mindset, not just physically, but my mindset. And trust me, just love the people around you and take the day as it comes.
Zainab.
Okay, so I think, yes, I agree. Those were some amazing tips shared by Marzianti. Thank you so much. They were very, very, very helpful. I think as just a final thing, I would say that women generally do tend to have high expectations on themselves. And I feel that this is a time where we should, we could actually take care of ourselves and practice surrender towards things that are beyond our control. And also a lot of self-forgiveness and compassion goes a long way. I also really feel that do what works for you. Everyone has a different way of coping with situations. For some, it could be meditation. For some, it could be journaling. For others, it could be reaching out. And there is absolutely no shame or no guilt in reaching out as well. I think it takes a lot of courage and strength to do that. So yeah, just take care of yourself in whatever way you can, whatever way works for your situation, and give the world the best of you, not what's left of you. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Marcia, bye.
Lovely. Okay, ending thoughts. Adopt these things, you know, these are self-compassion and self-care are not projects, they're practices. What does that mean? That it is something that we need to, just like we pray Salah every day, we eat every day, you know, these are some things that we need to practice on a daily basis. And again, it starts with our mindset. Also, just to differentiate between self-love and self-compassion, okay? I would be a little bit wary of putting the burden of self-love on ourselves because there is too much baggage with that word, right? Number one. And number two, if we've really failed that day, failed in the sense we've been completely not living our values, you know, we've been throwing tantrums, we've not been able to get out of bed, whatever. On days like this, if we tell ourselves, I need to love myself, it's going to be hard, okay? If I tell myself I can practice kindness towards myself, I can show compassion, that's different. You know, that means that I can do better. I'm focusing on my actions, right? So just to make that, and you know, whatever works for you, right? So if the word love works for you, great. But just, I know working with a lot of women, it's a very triggering word. So just be mindful of that. The second thing is, think of it as the minimum you can do. You know, don't have these grand goals of I'm going to do this and I have this long list, right? Always think of, you know, the way I like to think of it is that a ship, like a huge big ship, changes direction. How? What changes direction of the ship is the trim tab on the radar, which is this small compared to the huge ship. And still, when you change that, the direction of the ship changes, right? So again, when we start making really small changes in our days, like the tiniest of things, that's what add up and lead to a huge shift in our well-being and in the trajectory of our lives, okay? And just before also, just to let everyone know that the slides or just a handout for this session is available on the website. It's just marziahassan.org/handouts. And there's other good stuff there as well. So if anyone wants to download them, that's available already.
Thank you so much, Marcia, for making that difference. And also to our viewers, I'm hooked on Marcia Bai's Daily Wisdom blog. And if you are not subscribed to it, please do so. When you wake up in the morning, that's the first thing I read on my inbox. So Masabai, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Now to our viewers, if you have any questions, please put it on the chat or raise your hand if you want to ask the question, and let us know whom do you want to address it to. So I see a lot of comments. Do we have any questions? Yes, the program is recorded and will be available on YouTube. We will send the link.
There's a question here, Shamabai.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we have been instilled from when we were young that a woman needs to sacrifice all the time, and have seen the women around us doing this. So sometimes we feel guilty if we want to take time for ourselves. How do we get out of this? Maziaba?
So again, the way I understand the question is that we have been told to sacrifice all our lives. That's the message we've been given. And yes, we have. And this is what I call the emotional and burdens that we carry, right? Expectations of other people. And, you know, part of growth and maturity as a human being involves sifting through the narratives that have come down, been handed down to us, and see what helps and what doesn't help, right? So if these narratives are causing us great distress, then we need to challenge them. We don't need to accept them, right? And you know, the difference though is that it doesn't mean we're not powerful, right? And that's what I keep coming back to. We actually have an enormous amount of influence within our families and within the world, okay? That, and also it's a choice what we take on. So just because this has been told to me throughout my life, again, coming back to my circle of control, it's unreasonable. Two things are unreasonable. It's unreasonable to expect that I can make everyone happy. That's an unreasonable expectation. And the second unreasonable expectation that we live by is that I should be, quote unquote, a perfect mother. Now, this is very triggering for me. Why? Because by definition, we are setting ourselves up for failure, by definition, because perfection is not a human achievable quality. It's not. Only God is perfect. So we are told that all the time. And at the same time, we are told you should be a perfect mother. Now, does that make sense? It does not make sense, right? Yes. What we can do is we can strive for excellence. What is excellence? It's the process. It is what I can do in this moment to connect with my child, to do the right thing, to live my values. That's achievable. Perfection, again, is the outcome. You know, perfection is a goal which chasing it will cause us a lot of distress. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Basically, it's time to let go now.
Sorry?
Basically, it's time to let go.
Yeah, I mean, let go. And the first thing is to acknowledge it, right? Acknowledge that this is what I've been told and it's not working for me. It's not making me a better mother by telling myself all the time that, you know, I should be perfect.
Thank you.
We have a question here. Is there any book suggestions and how can we instill self-compassion and love for the self in our children?
Okay. Again, mothers always looking out for children, right? The best way to do that is to practice it yourself. That's literally the best way. If you are kind to yourself, if you are forgiving of yourself, if you take responsibility, accountability, your children will learn it without you teaching them. If you are focused on telling your children you should be kind to yourself, but you are not, they're not going to get it. Right?
We cannot
if I can just add in over there, there is something that actually changed my whole paradigm on parenting, and it resonates a lot with what Marzi Auntie just said over here. And I feel that Dr. Shefali Sabari's work, she has a book on the conscious parenting, and that actually changed a whole, created a whole shift in my mindset in actually working on myself before expecting my children to do certain things that I would want them to be, like self-compassion and other qualities that I would want them to have. Needs to all start with me and my inner work. So Shefali Sabari, she has amazing stuff on that.
And she's very easily accessible, lots of stuff on social media. So
thank you. Maseba, another question for you. Do you use any special tools or tips to plan your day? I believe a good planning helps to be less burdened in our mind.
Yes, for some people, yes. For me, I'm not great at following through. I'm just not. Like, I have very good intentions. And, you know, when I'm making lists for my to-do things, they're very long. And what I learned works is have only 3 things on your to-do list. And just the 3 main important things that you will accomplish. And if you can get through those 3, you are doing really well. Okay. So yes, checklists help for many, many people, writing stuff down, planning, all of that. And I am not the biggest role model. I tend to work with, you know, if I get into a project, I will be consumed by it and I won't be able to do anything else. And that's the nature of writing and preparing to speak and all of that. So yeah, getting things done. If you're into systems, that's like the classic. So, you know, get hold of that book and it'll give you very good advice.
Thank you, Maseba. I'm very conscious about the time. I'm going to, if you allow me, I'm going to put these 2 questions together. Maseba, being home with all also leads to many conflicts. For example, in parenting style or other issues. Any nutshell advice in dealing with conflicts? And the second question is how to deal with our emotions when our beloved ones hurt us with their words.
Okay, in 1 minute or less. Okay. Again, I'm going to point you to other resources. So there's stuff available on my podcast as well as on the Facebook page, public first Facebook page, a lot of videos, like long videos on each one of these things, an hour long, right? So it wasn't too much more to, you know, just to talk about conflict. Conflict is nothing to be scared of. If you are living with other human beings in the same place, you're going to have differences, right? So, and conflict is not what destroys relationships, marriage, family, any of that. What destroys relationships is actually emotional distance. So if you're still fighting, fantastic. Okay, it means you're still engaged with each other, and that's normal. The thing is not to be scared of that, but what are you doing when you're not fighting? Right? How are you building your friendship? How are you showing appreciation for each other? You know, so I like to think of everything as the emotional bank account, right? The emotional bank account is my relationship with you. What is the trust level? What is the goodwill level? The more things I do for you, like don't just, not acts of service, but just in any way that we are connecting with each other, we are building up our bank account. And when we're in conflict, when we say nasty things to each other, when we are not our best selves, we are taking withdrawals from that, right? So the idea is to keep that bank account full. You know, every time you meet somebody, with every interaction, we have the opportunity to make our relationship better. Again, don't think of the big thing. Just think of the next interaction. The next time you see your spouse, the next time you see your child, how can you make it a better relationship? And this is how we build on, you know, and what this does is when the relationship's strong, obviously conflict becomes less and it becomes less destructive. But is it going to go away anytime soon? Nope, it's not.
Thank you so much, Mosebai. So we are going to end the session now. Mosebai, somebody is asking for your channel name.
So everything, if you just Google my name, it has two S's, Marzia, Hassan. So just to keep it easy, I use the same thing for everything. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channel. There's actually a whole different side of my personality, which is the living the Quran. And, you know, that's also available, but all of this stuff is either on Facebook, on the YouTube, my website, marziahassan.org. It has 700 some posts. So there's a lot of stuff that can keep you busy for a while.
Okay, so to all our viewers for this evening, thank you so much for spending your precious time with us. And we hope that this session has been useful for you. And my huge thank you to all my three speakers. Mosebai, it was awesome having you. I cannot thank you enough.
Please, it was just wonderful meeting all of you, and I'm very blessed. Thank you.
It was amazing, and I'm definitely going to listen to it again. Nilam, thank you so much for your input, for your insight, and Zainab, for sharing your experiences with us as a young mother. I'm looking forward to connect more with you. And so thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Fatima, for looking after the IT in the back. Thank you so much, everybody. God bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum
Salam.